For more on the state of the Gulf of Mexico, we're happy to have with us tonight Louisiana Senator Mary Landrieu. Senator, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Let me begin by asking you to describe the health of the economy in the Gulf. Is it back to normal or still struggling?
Well, actually, the unemployment rate is lower in Louisiana and in Texas than in the rest of the country, and that's due to an uptick in production both onshore and off. Having said that, we're still not up to pre-spill levels, but the demand for oil and gas and the new technologies, expanding gas finds, is helping to boost our economy. But our coast is still suffering because of the ecological damage done to it and because actually of the moratorium that was put down by the administration, which I thought and many people thought was an overreach. You know, improving safety was important, but shutting down the whole industry wasn't, in our opinion. But people are just about back to normal, but we still have a lot of degradation and impacts to address.
Tell us a little bit about how the deepwater drilling, the status of deepwater drilling. As we reported, there has been a slight uptick in the number of rigs that are operating in the Gulf. How would you describe oil production there? Is the oil business robust to pre-spill?
Well, it's strong, but it's not as strong as it would have been, of course, and that's what people are very concerned about. We had many smaller suppliers and independent operators that were caught up in this mess, if you will. They're not deep water operators, they were shallow water operators, but yet the moratorium shut them down as well. But they're getting back up, they're stronger. Of course, our fishermen are struggling to come back. But the real key is to whether Congress will act to finally pass the Restore Act, which will dedicate 80% of the penalty money that BP is going to pay. And instead of sending it to the federal treasury, leaving 80% of it right here in the Gulf Coast where the injury occurred to help us to restore our wetlands, to do the research that's necessary to prevent these things from happening again, to research better how to save our wildlife, etc. This is a very dynamic and fragile but vibrant as well in places coast, and we just need the resources to sustain it, which helps the whole country and the world.
Well, now that you brought up the whole part about claims, let's talk a little bit about the whole damage claim process. How satisfied are you with the way that that was handled?
You know, there was an article today that an independent audit had been done about Ken Feinberg's claim process that found that he was about 98% accurate. Now, that's not to say that everybody down here in Louisiana along the Gulf Coast is satisfied, but it was kind of gratifying to see that the system that was set up worked for the most part. Now, some of those cases were not settled by Ken Feinberg, and all of this money BP has paid, not taxpayers. BP is paying every dime, and on top of that, they're paying penalties to boot. This is not taxpayers. But in the courts, there's some major lawsuits going on in the courts down here to settle big private claims. And then, of course, in Congress, we have our bill that BP, when they pay their big oil penalty, which is $1,000 or $4,200 for every barrel they spilled, we want that money reinvested in this coast and in our environment.
Senator, I want to ask you one quick question before we leave you. Are people better prepared in Louisiana if some kind of crisis like this happens in the future? Is your response time going to be quicker?
I think so. The question is the whole Gulf Coast better prepared? And the answer is yes, we are better prepared. But again, we've drilled 40,000 wells in the Gulf over the last 50 years, and many of them have deep water wells. This is the first time a major incident has happened. We can never 100% guarantee this will never happen again, but we can put smart regulations on and get the money invested well and wisely, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot. Senator, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we've been speaking with Louisiana Senator Mary Landrieu.